Turning on the red, white and blue is the Royal Air Force's world-famous aerobatic team, the Red Arrows. Their arrival marks the start of one of the highlights of the Bournemouth Air Festival, with thousands of people eagerly waiting to watch the team perform close formation aerobatics and adrenaline-packed aerial manoeuvres. Since their formation in 1964, the Reds, as they're nicknamed, have flown roughly 4,900 displays in 57 different countries. They have become something of an icon in UK pop culture, acting as ambassadors abroad and being used to promote the skills and values of the Royal Air Force, British industry, defence cooperation and diplomacy, and are used to help recruit the next generation of UK Armed Force personnel. This documentary aims to give viewers a behind-the-scenes look into the team's world, exploring what it takes to don the red flying suit, the challenges involved, and what being part of a team means to the pilots. It's a brisk, quiet winter's morning at RAF Scampton in Lincolnshire, the team's home base, but that quietness is set to be broken as ground crew prep the famed Red Hawk T1 aircraft for the day's flying action. The team is in the middle of winter training, preparing the routine for their 55th display season. After a morning briefing, the pilots get ready to take to the skies. But beforehand I spoke with Red 9, the team's executive officer, asking him what it's like to be a Red Arrow pilot.
Being part of a team is huge, especially a team that works so well. With what we do, the speeds and the distances we fly from each other's wings and tails means that our team operates in a different sphere almost, that you are fully trusting your life, and what that means is either loyalty to each other but trust, and again that builds into that teamwork. So it's one of the most hard-working teams and ethic of mindset to be able to achieve that final aim of being a team, and that's what I think I most love about being here. It was a dream I had for a very young age, so about 2-3 years old was the first time talking to my parents that they could reference back to when I was talking about being a pilot, and notably being a fighter pilot. So I was very lucky after school, passed selection to get into the Royal Air Force. I joined the Air Force when I was 19. I got to the frontline squadron flying Typhoons at 23. So it gave me enough time then through my 20s to build essentially my portfolio of flying. So flew Typhoons both in England, up in Scotland for 8.5 years, and what that did was give me enough experience then to apply for the team. So throughout that the dream was growing, and being fighter pilot in the Air Force means that if you have the hours and you operate to a certain level and assess at a certain level, then you get an opportunity to apply for the team. It's not something you can say, I'll do that and join. You apply, you then go through a selection process and get in. So the dream was there, and it was just over those the 10 years of being in the Air Force up to the point of selection that I was working hard towards it. First things first is you can't even put a bit of paper in to apply for the team unless you've been, we call them fast jet pilots. It will probably be seen outside the service as a fighter pilot. So now we have the Typhoon and the Tornado GR4. The F-35 is now flying in the Royal Air Force, but that's still fairly new and it's just got its operational tick. So that will now become a mainstay aircraft of the Royal Air Force. But up until this year, if you flew Tornadoes or Typhoons, fast jet / fighter pilot, you can apply. Within that though, you needed to have flown 1,500 hours. To put that into context, people, EasyJet flight from Gatwick to Paris is going to take you probably about an hour. You think about 2-3 hour trips around Europe. Now that's going to take you a couple of years to get 1,500 hours. For fighter pilots, we only fly for 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on what we're doing in the UK, depending on where we're training, because we clearly aren't as big, so we don't have as much fuel. The missions are in, get the job done, come home. So to get 1,500 hours as a fighter pilot is opposed to years as an airline pilot will take maybe 10 to 12. So guys have been in the Air Force nearly 15 to 20 years before they can apply for the team. So most guys are early to mid-30s, coming up to their 40s, as opposed to 20s when they would have been on the front line. So 1,500 hours. With that, as I say, 12 to 15 years experience, so they are quite experienced individuals. They're also assessed as officer skills, so are they above what we would expect as a normal officer, and have they been assessed as above average in the air. So when you go to a normal squadron, you are assessed by your ranking structure as to where you sit in that squadron, and we want them to be above average. By no means are we the best pilots in the Royal Air Force. To say that we're the 9 best pilots in the Air Force is not only wrong but incredibly arrogant. There are a lot of pilots out there who are as good, if not much better. they prefer to stay on the front line doing the tactical role, or go into flying training and teach the new generation of pilots to come through. But guys within that bracket of being above average who apply for the team 1,500 hours, then we'll consider them. There's a lot of challenges in this job. You know, they come daily almost. If I was to look back and put the last 2.5, maybe 3 years into perspective, I'd say the first year of training, because you don't know what you don't know, and the pressure is there to achieve. You know, you turned up. When I joined the team, it would have been the 53rd year. You know, so there's been 52 teams ahead of you that have been almost noted as the best team in the world. And so there's that added pressure of never wanting to be the first Red Arrow, either not to make it through training or to be in the first team that someone watched and went, they're all right, but they weren't that great. So when you first get here and you're learning your trade and you're learning the basics of what solidifies the whole formation, and in the 2 and 3 slot, you put the most junior guys at the front because there's less movement, but on the flip side, they set up the whole, what we call the wing. So if they're flapping about, then the guys outside find it very hard to formate on. So your job is to be world class at the basics. And so just getting to grips with that in the first year, as the formation got bigger and bigger and bigger, and their expectation, the more senior, more experienced pilots was growing on you. That's what I think, if I look back, it's the biggest challenges. That said, you know, you can talk for hours about turning up to air shows in poor weather conditions.
As the Reds returned to base after their morning sortie, I caught up with Red 4, one of the team's first-year pilots, and spoke to him about his selection process and what is expected of new applicants.
It's a huge privilege to be a member of the Royal Air Force Aerobatic team. As a fast jet pilot, it really is the pinnacle of what I'm going to be able to achieve in the Air Force. So to be part of that, it's a huge honour. Did I ever expect to become a Red Arrow? I have to say initially, going through training, probably not. It seemed so far in the distance and at such a high level, it didn't seem like something I was probably ever going to be able to do. But then gradually, as I spent more and more time in the Air Force, built up flying experience, built up my time on different types of fast jets, I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go, and applied, and was very fortunate to be selected for the team a couple of years ago. So in my selection process, like most years, we have normally 30 to 40 applicants go for the position, and that's reduced to a short list of 7 to 9 pilots. So in the year I was there was 9 of us went to Greece to join the team for a whole week and try and be successful in joining the team. I think the key things the team are looking for is a solid flying test, so proving that we can fly formation aerobatics on Red 1's wing, being very open and honest about how that performance goes, stands you in a really good light as well. To also be successful, you complete an interview with the team leader and the officer commanding Royal Air Force Aerobatic team, and there's also some PR tests that were put through, and really the big part is to see if we fit in with the team, because teamwork is so key to what we do. We just need to make sure that the dynamic, the personalities all match up so that we're all going to get on, really living in each other's pockets for the next 11 months, trusting each other as we fly literally 6 feet apart. I think the main differences between what the team are looking for that you might not have on the front line day to day is a really high level of self-critique. So we rely hugely on being open and honest in our debriefs to achieve the high standards that we set out to. So I think that's certainly something that's looked for in this selection process. Clearly being able to fly formation and being smooth in formation is certainly they're keen for. And then we have an additional role in that we're quite a lot more in the public eye as a Red Arrows pilot than we would normally be on the front line. So there's a certain degree of skill required there to be more of a public face than you would normally be on the front line.
As the sun sets over Lincolnshire, so too does another day of winter training, but from it the team's a step closer to being ready for the 2019 season, one which will see them venture across the pond to tough North America. Throughout it they will demonstrate their skill and team working excellence, and perhaps may inspire the next generation of Red Arrow pilots.